guys, this is E10 Sun from SunBros. Today I'm really excited to be bringing you guys this brand new video. But before we get started with that, I want to make sure I remind you guys on how to get entered in for a chance to win our guaranteed skin giveaways that we do every Sunday night during our 1-hour question and answer live stream. All you gotta do is make sure you're subscribed to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and comment below with your in-game name and which skin you'd like to receive on either the NA or EU servers under 700 vouchers. And remember, the more videos that you do this with that are uploaded each week, the higher chance you have to win. Alright guys, let's go ahead and get started with our how to build Skud video. As you guys know, I have been playing some Skud recently and I'm really excited about making an official build for him. I think he's a very underrated hero. I thought he was before, then he got buffed, and there's discussions about buffing him again in the next patch, so I'm really excited about Skud's potential in this game. And as always, we're going to be starting in the hero page, kind of going over who Skud is, what he brings to the table, and what we can do to make Skud even better via our build. To help, you know, put out his strengths and stuff like that, and minimize weaknesses. So, Skud's passive is Anabolic Rage. Every 10 seconds, Skud's next normal attack deals an additional 20% damage and restores health based on a flat amount, and then based on 4% of his maximum HP. And then, of course, mana and 30% of his lost mana. So, each normal attack also reduces the cooldown of this ability by 1 second. So normal attacks and auto attacks will reduce the cooldown from 10 down each time you hit somebody. His first ability is Furious Charge. Skud charges in the target direction, dealing 210 damage plus a scaling amount of physical damage to enemies in his path and knocking them into the air for half a second. Skud also gains armor for 3 seconds. The cooldown on this first ability starts at 7 seconds and goes down to 5.5 seconds, which is pretty legit. Excuse me. Alright, Skud's second ability is Power Glove. Skud increases his attack speed by 20% and movement speed by 10% for 5 seconds. The next normal attack deals an additional 120 plus a flat 80 scaling physical damage to enemies and reduces their movement speed. The normal attack's damage is also increased based on the time elapsed between ability use and the normal attack. It's a 12% extra damage at half a second, all the way up to 60% extra damage, which is a pretty crazy amount. And then it cannot critically strike. Now, the cooldown for this starts at 11 and then goes down to 9 seconds, and the base damage goes up all the way to 420 at level 6, which is a pretty ridiculous amount. And I think Power Glow is probably one of his best abilities, which is crazy considering how good his first ability and his ultimate are. But really, Skud has a really evened out, solid kit all around. And then Skud's ultimate is Wild Beast Fury. Skud charges for a brief period and then spins and hits all nearby enemies with his fist, dealing physical damage, scaling with AD, knocking them back and stunning them for 1 second. Also deals additional physical damage equal to 15% of the enemy's current HP and resets the cooldown on Furious Charge. So it's because it's current HP, it's good to use the ultimate early in the game to really get the most damage out of it, as well as create the best advantage for your team to really take advantage of this as much as possible. But the cooldown is 35 seconds and it goes all the way up to 25, and the AD base goes from 370 to 570 at level 3. Alright, so now that we have a breakdown of what Skud does and what he brings to the table, I'm really excited about building him. Now, I want to go back to this page real quick, and Skud's bases. Let's see, his base attack damage is 171. So as we can see from here, his first ability has a 1.0 AD scaling ratio. His second ability is about 0.5. It's right at 0.5 really. And then its ultimate is going to be over 1. Let's do some quick math on that one and see exactly what the scaling is, because it's important for us to know so that we can best take advantage. So it's 171, 239. So 171 divided by 239 is I did the wrong direction. 239 divided by 171 is 1.4. So the ultimate scales at 1.480. So really, the scaling is pretty solid. Nothing bad at all. Really solid. 1.5. But it's not a big deal that the Power Glove doesn't scale very well, because the damage comes from holding on to the ability. The normal attack's damage is also increased based on the time elapsed between the ability use and the normal attack. So the scaling is nice, but you can increase the damage by 60% by holding on that. And there's words in that they're potentially going to increase that up to 90% in the next patch, which is going to be pretty insane. Okay, so let's go back to the equipment page. So we're going to be building Skud as a warrior and off tank, as he properly should be. He should not be going all tank, and he certainly shouldn't be going all AD. He's best built half-half. Now, Skud's early damage potential, his early game damage potential is very high, shockingly high. In fact, if you guys haven't noticed how good it can be, you should really give it a shot. And so we're going to focus on that, and we're going to make it even stronger by building our first damage item on him. And that is going to be Rank Breaker. Rank Breaker is a pretty simple item as far as why we're building that first on him. 110 attack damage is a good amount. It gets his damage early game started progressing. Plus, it starts with some armor pierce. So, you know, any armor that people are going to start with early game, he's going to immediately go through it once he finishes his very first item. And then he increases movement speed by 10% after exiting battle. So if you're playing top lane with Skud, as you most likely will be playing, you know, roaming with Skud can be a good thing. The extra movement speed helps. It's not groundbreaking, you know, gonna change your life, but it's helpful. And then let's go ahead and go to the boots. We got Gilded Greaves. This is pretty simple for two reasons. Number one, we do want the magic defense because we're not going to focus too much on magic defense in this build because Skud's mobility and his overall crowd control and displacement that the ability to displace people that he possesses is good enough. So that we're not going to have to really focus on that too hard. But we get the magic defense, we get the movement speed increase, of course, and we get the unique passive resistance. So that is going to decrease crowd control abilities on Skud by 35%. So if he were to get stunned or knocked back or slowed or anything of that nature for a second, it now goes down to 0.65 seconds, which is really nice to have. Okay, then we're going to be going to our first tank item, and this is an item that works really well with Skud because it helps him build up his kind of wombo combo, which is essentially, I think if you're doing Skud's wombo combo properly, you're going to be hitting his second ability to get it charging. You're going to hit his first ability to dash in and knock somebody up. And then you're going to auto attack. So you're going to get your empowered auto attack with 5 stacks from the second ability. And then you're going to knock them up. Or you're going to, right after you knock them up. And then when they land, that auto attack is not only going to give you increased damage because of the fact that it has the charge up from the second ability, and it's going to have the charge up from the passive. It's also going to have the extra damage from our second tier 3 item, Frost Cape. So really nice to have this because Frost Cape gives him 10% cooldown reduction, which is nice to have. Obviously, always nice to have on anyone. Armor, max HP, solid to help start to build his tankiness, and of course, the ridiculous passive on Frost Cape, Elemental Power. After using an ability, the next normal attack reduces movement speed by 30% and deals 150 physical damage plus 20 additional damage for each level gain to an area for 3 seconds. So it's essentially an AoE slow with a little bit of an extra burst damage. But let me just kind of break this down for you so you guys can see what it looks like. The passive empowers a normal attack every 10 seconds. So let's say you engage a fight with this on. And then the second ability obviously is going to give you a massive boost in damage also. You're going to be getting the boosted damage from Anabolic Rage, the boosted damage from Power Glove, and the boosted damage from Frostcape, all proccing on that same massive auto attack. And as if that isn't awesome enough, the slow from Frostcape will help secure the target you're after. So essentially, they're going to get knocked up before you even know that you're really coming in on them. Then you're going to slow their movement speed by 30% using Frostcape's passive, and then you're going to knock them back using the ultimate. So it's a nice little wombo combo where they really don't have a chance to react via the crowd control, and the slow is so heavy. Sorry about the air horn. Somebody subbed to the channel. So really awesome on that. To get our first defensive item, and one that also helps build up what we want to do with Skud as far as that kind of combination of really Skud's most deadliest and potent abilities. Okay, then we're going to be going, and we're going to be staying in the defensive tree. We're going with an item that I don't often take, and I don't like very much, generally speaking, but Odin's Will is an item that I happen to find very good for Skud, for a couple different reasons. After Skud finishes his wombo combo, if he still wants to stay engaged in a fight, Skud is so disruptive and so in your face. And one of the other things it does too is after he finishes his ultimate, Skud finishes his ultimate, and it resets the cooldown on his first ability for his charge, so he can dash to another target immediately. And Scud's disruptiveness in the game causes him to be a very high priority target for the teammates, for the enemy. Even if they don't intend for him to be a high priority target, he just automatically becomes one because he interjects himself so deep into the enemy's plans. And the passive just works beautifully on Skud from Odin's Will. So you're gonna get 60 attack damage and 1000 HP, which is nice. You're gonna get some more damage, some more tankiness, and the tankiness obviously works well to get his more regen back from his passive. But the passive, Adrenaline, increases movement speed by 2% and deals 2% additional damage after taking damage, and it stacks it to 5 times. So Scud's going to take damage a lot when he's really going nuts on people, and he's going to quickly stack up to 5 of those stacks, where he's going to be dealing 10% extra damage while having 10% extra movement speed. So our first 2 items really set up Scud's entrance into the fighting world. Odin's Will really helps him sustain well in there with more health and a lot more damage. The damage is 10% damage is nothing to joke about. That is substantial, and even though it builds up on Skud, he will get there, and it will make a big difference on him. Next, we're going to be staying in the defensive tree for a 3rd defensive item, and that one is going to be Crimson Banner. We're getting ourselves more armor. I know it's a little bit low on the magic resistance, but the armor is solid. Now, if the other team happen to have 3 magic damage dealers, you know, they have a mage assassin in the jungle, they have a mage mid lane, and they have a mage support, this is where you maybe switch out Crimson Banner for an item like Gaia's Standard. Not a big deal, okay? That's perfectly fine, but for a normal game where you're generally going to be facing 1 magic damage dealer on the other team, maybe 2 if you include a support like Valor Shapira, generally speaking, I'm going to go with Crimson Banner for 200 more armor, 1500 max HP, which is a ton of max health, and then the passive Bloody Battle restores 20% HP over 5 seconds after earning a kill or assist. So we're now again benefiting Scud's after entrance move. So he's gonna go in, gonna go wombo, boom, he hit his ultimate, and now Skud goes through a small reset phase where he really does a lot. He does a pretty decent amount of auto attack damage with this build. But he's got his first ability up again, and he can stay in people's faces. Crimson Banner, he's gonna gain health via Crimson Banner for saying he's gonna be more tanky. So the after wombo combo phase for Skud is now stronger, in really every way you can imagine. So that is kind of the point of what we're doing here. And then what we're doing again, I mean, at this point, Scud's entrance combo is already super strong, and it can one-shot some people very easily. So we're again, for our last item, we're going to be going back to the attack tree, and we're again going to be benefiting the after combo damage of Skud. We're going to be going with Fenrir's Tooth. 200 attack damage, and the passive increases all damage dealt by 30% when the target's HP is below 50%. Now, there's a reason why this actually works really well on Skud. It's because anyone Skud hits with his ultimate is generally going to be pretty low on health, generally below 50%, because that does a lot of damage. An ultimate is really powerful, especially if he hits him with a second ability, auto attack, which is just massive damage. Now, this again is going to favor the after combo Skud. Now, obviously, it's going to make his combo Skud a lot better, because it's going to add damage to all his abilities and his second auto attack, all that kind of stuff, right? It's going to improve that tremendously. But now we're going to be 30% extra damage when we're fighting targets below 50%. Throw the 10% extra damage we're going to have from Odin's Will, because we're really just starting to stack that extra damage. 40% extra damage when probably Skud is a little low on health, but definitely some of the enemies he's fighting are low on health after the wombo combo team fight entrance, and Skud can stay relevant by being tanky enough to survive, number one, having a little bit of regeneration, 20% health from Crimson Banner, and we have a decent amount of health built on us. We have 800 from Crossgate, we have 1000 from Odin's Will, and now 1500 from Crimson Banner. That's a decent amount of HP. Now we're getting massive damage boosts at the tail end of team fights, where he's getting 30% from Fenrir's, as well as 10% from Odin's Will, and Scud's damage skyrockets the later the fight gets, and the lower people's health get, and all that stuff. So I really love this build on Skud a lot. It does a lot of solid damage. It's tanky enough to be a difference maker. But I love it. I think this build works phenomenally on him. I think you guys are really going to like it. And I gave you guys an alternative build. If you're more like me and you like to see something a little bit more, perfect per se, I would play this. If you want to play Skud Jungle, we have a Ken at Jungle video with Skud, and I actually think this build works out pretty well. in the jungle. But if you're playing him top lane and you want Frostbite, because Frostbite is a hell of a talent, this is the build that I would suggest. We're starting off with Soul Reaver. That's 115 total. Oh no, sorry, 125 total attack damage. So it's the second highest attack damage item in the game. On Soul Reaver, you're gonna get 15% cooldown reduction. Still going Gilded Greaves, still going Frostcape. So at this point in the game, we have 25% cooldown reduction, which is really nice to have. It's nice to have 25% cooldown reduction on Skud because those abilities are dynamite. And this really helps Skud's after Wombo again because he can get his Wombo back sooner. Then we're going to Rank Breaker, same reasons. Now we have a 235 attack damage, which is beautiful for a warrior. Then we're going to go with Crimson Banner. Again, this item is substitutable for Gaia Standard. If the magic damage dealers on the other team are much more of a problem for you than the attack damage dealers. And then of course we're still going to be finishing out with Fenrir 2, giving us a total of 435 attack damage on this simple build. I really like this one also. This is probably the one that I would personally use because I love Soul Reaver so much. But I do believe this build is pretty solid, and I really love the way Odin's Will works with him. So it's a really underrated item on him specifically, and I really like the way it works. So this is the build that we're recommending if you really want to play Frostbite in lane and want to try something a little bit more damagey. This is the build here. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and head over to the Arcana section, and we're just going to be going real simply to our 80 pen, which is going to be our attack damage penetration. We're going to be starting with Onslaught, which gives us attack damage of 20 and armor pierce of 36. Now the reason why we're going, same reason we go Rank Breaker in this build, because we want his abilities to hit hard, and abilities, physical attack damage abilities will hit harder when we have more armor pierce. So we'll end up with 250 from the Rank Breaker item. Now we're going to be building 100 in our Arcana page for a total of 350 armor pierce, which is really going to help all of his damage. Next we're going to green or purple, and we're going to be taking Assassinate. Going to give him more movement speed and more attack damage at another 16. So now we're at 36 attack damage, and we're at 36 armor pierce and 10% movement speed. And we're going to end it real simply on my favorite green one in the game, and that is Skewer. 9 more attack damage, giving him a max of 45 and 64 armor pierce. That's such a wonderful, beautiful amount. So 45 attack damage, 100 armor pierce, and 10% movement speed, which is just solid across the board. Exactly what we want for Skud early game. And we're talking about the early game damage. This is going to help tremendously, but this will also help late game also. Next, we're moving on to the talents. Obviously, if you're going with build number 2, you got to take Punish. Otherwise, a couple different talents that I like for Skud. I'm going to give you 2 options. Flicker is a no-go. I don't want you taking Flicker on Skud because Flicker he has a really nice dash that not only does it help get him into position because it's a long-range dash, it's a good initiator, but it also causes crowd control to anyone in the path. So Flicker just isn't worth it. I mean, could you potentially get an extra kill every now and then by somebody running away and you Flicker dash? I mean, sure, but to the base of his kit, it isn't really necessary in my opinion. So the first one we're going to be talking about besides Punish, sorry, and then one I think that is very underrated on him, and one that I think is pretty good, and he's one of the few heroes that can really make use of it, is Disrupt. And the reason why Disrupt is well on him because he, you know, if he dashes, disrupts, and ults, and can knock back enemies under tower to his teammates away from tower, that's a hell of a way to turn a game, man. That is a big time, big boy Skud play. And the other one, of course, is going to be Heal. Heal is always one I like taking. It's helpful to your teammates. It's helpful to you. It helps you sustain longer. It helps you be able to, you know, turn a fight or a 1v1 fight or a team fight. I think Heal just is overall never really a terrible talent to take on anyone. Those are the talents. Now let's recap our builds real quick for you guys on Skud. This is the build that we're recommending 100%. Actually, let's recommend number 2. Soul Reaver, Gilded Greaves, Frostcape, Rank Breaker, Crimson Banner, and Fenrir's Tooth is build number 2. That's if you want to really take Soul Reaver a little bit more of a damage build. And our number 1 build that we're recommending for you in lane is a little bit more tanky. That's going to be Rank Breaker, Gilded Greaves, Frostcape, Odin's Will, Crimson Banner, and Fenrir's Tooth. Guys, I'm really excited for you guys to try this build out and leave me some feedback in the comment section. Tell me how much you loved it. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, until next time.